But I had two questions. One directly related to you programming this marathon, and another one from the very first moment I met you, and that was in an alley behind the Alamo Drafthouse. Where did you get your coat? It's beautiful.
Well, thank you very much. This actually, I was in Venice, Italy, and it's a Venetian coat, believe it or not. And
So I can't get that like an H&M though?
Well, the place is called Impressa, so you might be able to find, I think they're expanding, but I saw it in a window and I was like, wow, that reminds me of like a Sergio Leone spaghetti western type of coat, and I have to have that, so that's why I got it. And I thought I should wear it to the Alamo Drafthouse. You know,
I don't say this to a lot of men, but you were wearing the shit out of that coat, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And then my second question, kind of directly related to us watching some of these movies, and there was a question that you asked a character in one of your movies, and I felt like we should ask it to you. What is your spirit power animal?
Ooh, wow. I'd like to say the lizard, but I think Jim Morrison already took that one. Spirit power animal. I fluctuate, but California gray whale. And there is another one. Boy, this bourbon, I haven't had bourbon in a while.
Scotch. We pulled out the scotch for you.
Scotch? Okay, so there you go. I haven't had bourbon in a while. California gray whale and monitor lizard, so I have to go with that anyway, and dog.
Fair enough. So, I mean, you obviously are probably the most versatile actor that I've ever seen perform. And you do a lot of idiosyncratic and bizarre roles, and then you do some more straightforward stuff. Has there ever been a role that's come along to you where you're like, that's too out there, guys? And what was it?
Wow, I hesitate to mention names, but yes.
Please say names.
Well,
that's why I didn't pull up the scotch for nothing.
I don't remember the actual title of the script, and it was a few years back. And believe it or not, I've worked with him twice. But Paul Schrader offered me a script that it was just too much violence for even me, and I can't go there, man. I'm not doing this one. And I don't remember the name of it, but it was one of those the dark, deepest recesses of the human heart scripts that Paul Schrader can write. But it was just too much for me, so I said no.
So it's just violence that you drew the
line?
The
violence I couldn't do. It's kind of like what Willem did in the first 5 minutes of Dog Eat Dog. My character was doing that throughout the entire script.
That's pretty Paul Schrader.
It was too extreme for even me, so that one didn't happen. I wish I could remember the name of the script, but I can't.
Well, so, I mean, you put a lot into your roles. Like, at what point, like, when do you start that research? And then, like, where do you come up with all of these, like, incredible tics and mannerisms that are so uniquely specific to those characters?
That's a great question. Life. I mean, it's as simple as that. I'll see people do things every day. Something as mundane and ridiculous as a guy driving a car and then stopping at a stoplight and being in such a rush that he had to take the lever to his seat and put it back and put his hand over his head like this and wait for the light to turn green. And I'm still waiting to put that in a movie. I don't know where to do that. It can be like commercials that I've seen as a kid. It can be my influences like Jerry Lewis or Daffy Duck or Marlon Brando or Elvis Presley. But then later it's just more importantly, it's coming from places like, for example, if we remember because we just sat through this together, in Joe, there was a moment where I had to get psyched up and get into that intensity for the scene where Ronnie Blevins and I get into the fight in the bar. And I start to look to the newspaper. I look at current events. I look at what's happening around us. And even that, if you open yourselves up to that, if you open your heart up to that and your sensitivity up to that, it sinks in and it becomes personal. And I was thinking about that little kid. It's a true thing that happened, tragic, where he fell into a wild dog exhibit in a zoo, and he got eaten alive, and it just tore me up. It tore my heart out. And I just came to work that day, and I just used those feelings and put it right into the scene, and even spoke about it. So it can be anything, but I think the most important tool for an actor is the imagination.
Well, and I mean, they also say like the best artists create. but they also know when to steal. And is there anything that you have been attributed to that somebody's like, that's specifically Nicolas Cage, or somebody walks up to you and they're like, I love that you did this, and you're like, I stole that from Humphrey Bogart or something. Is there anything that's
Anything
like
that I've
yeah, like, do you have anything that you're like, oh, I got away with that one, and people think that's mine now?
Well, I mean, it is one of the brushes I paint with. In fact, it started with Wild at Heart when Stanislavski said the worst thing you can do as an actor is imitate. And so being me, I wanted to break those rules and start imitating. So like Andy Warhol would take these great collages of icons. I thought, why not do that with Elvis? And so in Wild at Heart, I tried that with Elvis. And then most recently in a movie called Dog Eat Dog, I did that with Humphrey Bogart. And it's just something that you're not supposed to do, and so therefore I want to do it and explore and use it as a paintbrush.
Well, so what's your favorite performance that you've ever done? Like, 'cause I mean, was it weird to sit for 10 hours and watch yourself?
It was extraordinarily bizarre for me.
Yeah, because like, I mean, if I'm sitting at home and The Rock's on, I'm like,
Yeah.
shit, I just lost 2 hours. I'm gonna watch The Rock. Like,
My friend, I don't watch my movies. I mean, I watch them once when they get launched, kind of like the birth of a child, and then I don't look at them again. I don't want to go back. So this was like 5 movies back to back, and I was already wiped out after The Telltale Heart. So it was and then all the things in between the movies, that was wild. I mean, those guys did a great job.
yeah, this guy, Larry Jimenez, is he here? Yeah, that guy is a wizard. I actually think he left the theater to go edit the Telltale Heart footage.
Oh yeah, cool. Well, listen, I mean that Never on Tuesday footage with the big prosthetic nose. I mean that's a rare one. I don't think anyone's seen that, so that's very good.
Well, yeah, but so what is your favorite performance? It doesn't have to be your favorite movie, but what was the one that you watched that you could go, that was a good one, nailed it? All of them is unacceptable.
I think that in terms of this lineup, I think that the Joe performance was the most close to me in terms of I was trying not to really act. It was trying to just be how I am in life to a point. But I was really happy with Lord of War tonight. I was really thrilled with that.
It's a great movie.
Yeah, they're all my children in a way, and I'd hate to choose one and make the other one jealous. So
I just picture a whole bunch of Nicolas Cages descending upon your house and tormenting you now. Well,
it has been a lot of movies. It's been a lot of movies.
Yeah, no,
you've done 5 of these, or this is the 4th.
This is the 4th one.
It's amazing.
So a lot of these people have sat through this 4 times.
Well, and you said these are the best people in the world.
They are.
And you are.
They are second to none.
So much. You really touched me today, and it means so much to me. Thank you all for supporting me and watching my movies. I really appreciate it. It's true.
Yeah, like, I don't want to eat up all the time capitalizing because I could ask him ridiculous questions to satisfy my own curiosity forever, but that feels selfish. So, yeah, you were first hand up. Come on, let's start asking questions. So, if you want to ask a question, please hold your hand up politely and then speak loudly so that we can all hear.
Most surreal fan interaction other than this?
Well, this was surreal for watching all the movies back to back for me, but it's been great to be here with you. But there was a time when I was in Romania, and this gal with a Transylvanian accent was jumping up into the air like a Marc Chagall painting, like the one, Honey, you float so beautifully, but instead she was like trying to bite me, and her teeth were like going like that, gnashing. And she was saying, I love you, Nicholas, I'm getting on the plane with you. I was going to the airport. And it just, that one was a little much. That one got under my skin.
Well, so speaking of a little much, you have some characters that you are deeply committed to that are, I think, some of the greatest characters that have ever been put to screen. But whenever you go to do them, there's obviously a tremendous risk that you're taking. Because being an actor is a risky thing, but whenever you show up to Peggy Sue Got Married with Cap Teese and a pompadour, or you commit to like the low character in Vampire's Kiss, like you're leaning into it. And like, do you ever have like a second guess or a hesitation, or you're just like, you believe it, and so the more that you believe it, like it's there?
Well, I mean, those 2 examples are excellent examples because both of those I could have been fired each time. They were especially on Peggy Sue Got Married, because that one everybody was like what is he doing in the rehearsal? I was
Talking like that, and
these crazy teeth, and Kathleen Turner was not amused. But,
Yeah, is that story true? Did she really dislike you?
well,
for
no,
that movie?
she's a nice woman. It was just that she was expecting the boy from Birdie, and she got like the Nutty Professor. And it's understandable. But the thing is, it's not so much in those two examples. I was worried, and the pressure was on. Oh, and also when I did Moonstruck, I first started. I was talking. I had seen Jean Marais in Beauty and the Beast, a Cocteau film, and he was doing it in French, of course, Jean Marais. But he was talking like this, and he had that gravelly voice, and I was trying to do that in Moonstruck, and. Norman Jewison called me on Christmas Eve to tell me the dailies aren't working. And I kept hearing the name Vincent Spano wafting around in the air, and I knew I was going to get fired on that. So I immediately dropped that tone of voice and just started acting from the spinal cord to not get fired. And then later, John Patrick Shanley, who wrote that script, said, you know, it's interesting you cited Beauty and the Beast because the original title for this movie was The Wolf and the Bride. And so I guess I was like locking into something in his script. But to give you a more kind of, what's the right word, deeply felt answer, I don't worry about that stuff, at least not anymore. I know when I'm in the zone, I know when my instrument is at peace, and I'm going to go for it in terms of the imagination, in terms of the emotion, and I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to feel it, and that's when I know it's working.
Awesome. Yeah, no, you guys can clap. They're all great answers. Man, it's about poetry. We just need to listen. We'll do one up here in the back. I see your hand right there.
Out of all the films, all the scenes, on set, is there something so cool and amazing that at the end of your life you'll be like, wow, that was remarkable?
Well, they've all been remarkable. I feel so blessed and so lucky to be doing the very thing that I wanted to do since I was a child, and be able to call it my job. I mean, I stand here today amazed. This is remarkable, but this is happening. It's happening to me, and it's happening to us, and it's like, wow, that really is an incredible experience. So I'm thankful and I'm grateful.
Yeah, somebody else? Here we go, right here.
What's the most fun you've had preparing for a movie, or what movie was it and why?
I had a great time on a movie I made called Honeymoon in Vegas. Thank you. And I liked being in Hawaii and being in Vegas, and I liked the people I was working with, James Caan and Sarah Jessica Parker, and we had a lot of fun on that movie. And Andrew Bergman was the director. And I have great feelings, great fondness, great memories of that experience. I also had a marvelous time working on Wild at Heart with David Lynch. He was so much fun to work with. He would always call me Nixter. Nixter, that was solid gold, buddy. Cinema is a road. It's a dark road, and characters' feelings become obscured.
Well, yeah, so you talked about two of the movies that you worked with Willem Dafoe, and so he's a very intense presence. Is there an actor working today that you've either worked with or that you've watched that you're just like, that dude's got it? Like, that is one of my favorite actors to watch.
Oh, yeah. Joaquin Phoenix, he's something else. Ryan Gosling, I like James Franco. Zoe Saldana, and I think these are all the real deal. They're about as good as it gets, and some of them are more stylized, and some of them are just effortless, and you don't see the acting. So and I think Chris Pine is a great Captain Kirk. I think he does a great job in the Star Trek movies. And Chris Pratt I think is terrific. I loved Guardians of the Galaxy. I like actors that aren't afraid to have that sense of humor too, you know.
So, and I'm basing this off of just, I guess it had to have happened on a set at some point. because you get pretty turned up in your performances sometimes.
Sure.
And I'm pretty sure that you've terrified an actor at some point on a set,
Yeah.
where somebody's like, "That was very intense, Nicholas."
Yeah.
Has anybody ever done that to you?
Has anyone terrified me in a performance? No. I'm sorry to say, I can't think of
I,
one. No.
I thought I was giving you a volley into the air for you to spike and just go, Willem Dafoe. It's terrifying.
No, Willem and I, we have a real good connection. I would say he's a friend. He's somebody I enjoy working with. He's someone I think we've done good things together. And anytime you work with someone who is excellent, you know, some actors, they try to screw you up. They try to throw you off. It hasn't happened to me often, but it has happened. And that's always a mistake, because when you work with someone who you admire and regard, it only makes your work better.
Yeah, somebody else got a question? Here.
You played this amazing variety of characters, but I was just wondering is there any like particular quality that you look for in a character, or any particular character type that you're more drawn to?
Yeah, I think I'm drawn to the flawed anti-hero, the person who's got or a lot of the chips against them. The chips are down, but somehow they overcome it, or they may not make it all the way, but they made the effort. I like those guys, those characters. The anti-hero, I think.
So you were close to Superman, and you were Kick-Ass. Is there a superhero that's out there that you're like, I'm perfect with that you want to do?
No, not really, not so much anymore. I think my my superhero days are kind of well, I was Ghost Rider, you know.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds was like, whatever, just put me in another one, I got it.
Right. Well, you know, never say never, right? But right now I'm enjoying this kind of immersion into the independent cinema that I've been working in recently, and the kind of characters that I've had a chance to play, and exploring different kinds of styles of film acting, whether it's more natural or more baroque and operatic. I just want to keep it as eclectic as I can, which I think you saw today.
Is there a director that you have worked with? Because you've worked with, kind of everybody that everybody would ever dream to work with as a director, as an actor. Is there anybody out there that you're like, I really should have made a Terry Gilliam movie?
Well, that's, I mean, I don't really want to single out names on directors, but yeah, there are a lot of filmmakers, even recently, that I think are really original and dynamic. I like the young ones that haven't had their dreams whipped out of them yet. They still think they can do anything. And I like the crazy older ones, who like Paul Schrader and Werner Herzog, who are still doing something maverick, doing something original. So I have been blessed to work with that kind of iconoclastic style director.
Yeah, somebody else have one? There.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Great.
Excellent.
So we know what you would program, obviously, of your films, because we just watched 5 of them. If you were programming movies from cinema history for us to watch, what would you program?
Speaking of which, and I don't mean to interrupt that question, but this is called a draft house, but I hope that you think of it as your draft home.
Oh,
and you can program here anytime you like.
Yeah, I like the movies that I'm sure all of you like. I mean, you can see my tastes do veer to a darker feeling sometimes, I would say. But I would go with Scarface. I would go with 2001. I would go with Clockwork Orange. I would go with what would be something?
Phantom of the Paradise?
Phantom of the Paradise. Thank you. Yes, I would. In fact, these are movies I watch annually. I'd go with Apocalypse Now. I watch these movies annually, and yeah, so I think we share similar tastes.
We're showing literally the majority of those movies on 70mm at the Ritz this month.
Oh, well, I'll have to come back for that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Tim, can we get him a card that says I'm fucking Nicolas Cage so he just gets free shit every time he wants to come to an Alamo Drafthouse?
That would be great.
Yeah, somebody else have a It's done! I guarantee it's happening. Yeah, right up here.
Yeah, so you're really good at imbuing your comedic characters with kind of dramatic flares and sadness, and your kind of sadder dramatic characters with some comedy. Like, how do you balance that out when you're in a drama or a comedy, you know, with those levels? Also, totally different question, National Treasure 3?
Okay, I have no answer to the last question. It's very simple. I read a dramatic piece and I look for the humor, and I read a funny piece and I look for the drama. And that's what I do. I want to have that balance. And the ratio, sometimes it's a dramedy, but I think that Larry's movie, Army of One, you know, there were some poignant emotional moments in that movie, and I think Larry's one of the better directors in terms of comedy at finding that. But it really is about that. I want to give it a mix so it is more like life than just a genre.
Do you ever, so like Army of One, the character's a relatively kind of unlikable person,
Yeah.
but you love him. Is that a conscious thing that you do whenever you're doing those kinds of performances? Or do you ever where you're like, is he just completely unlikable now?
Well, the thing is, and it was a lot more unlikable before they recut it. The thing is, I met Gary, and Gary, the first thing I noticed about Gary, and it was about a 2.5 hour, 3 hour interview, is he could not stop talking. And I was like, oh man, I've got a lot of work in front of me. There's going to be a lot of dialogue in this movie. How am I going to memorize it? And they kept changing the script. But the issue there was, you know, Gary has some edge to him. You know, for him to do what he did, he's got some edge to him. And Larry and I were both looking at it like, well, we've got to be real to the aura of the personality, but we also have to find ways of keeping him in the likable zone, in the fun zone. And so that was a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, somebody else have one? There.
When it comes to choosing projects, like even today, we've seen you in parts of South Africa, we've seen you in Bangkok, we've seen you in, outside of Boston. Is the locale and immersing yourself in a culture important for when you choose a project?
Absolutely, and that's a great question. I mean, I think I actually made a conscious decision at some point in my career to try, in my work, to try to go to different areas that I had not been to, because I believe in a thing called the genus loci, or the genie of the place. And I think that the location itself can inform performance and inform character. And let's say I work with a director, or in this case, the two twin Chinese brothers, Danny and Oxide Pang, who did Bangkok Dangerous. And that's a funny story in itself. They looked exactly alike, and they wouldn't tell me which one was directing me because they would alternate days. And they would mess with my head with that one. But anyway, I thought they got something out of me there. That cultural or the whatever they were going for within the context of their vision and their culture, and that also happened with John Woo. I thought that brought something out of me, like they can find something within me and rediscover me. And I also like the idea of going to exotic places. I thought, you're right, I mean, I looked at those movies, I was like, wow, I was in Bangkok and I was in South Africa, and and it brought back memories, but it definitely informed performance.
Is there a character or story that you have not told that you're just itching to do, or that you've always wanted to do?
Well, I always thought that I would make I'd make a good Captain Nemo from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Because my first love is the ocean. I've always been fascinated by the sea and marine life, and I thought that I could really play that character with heart and passion, because that character loves the sea more than anybody in literature.
Yeah, somebody else have a question? Right here.
In Face Off, you played John Travolta's character playing you, and in
Yeah.
Adaptation, you played twins. And I wonder if you enjoy seeking out sort of acting challenges like that, or if you approach them differently when you're preparing? Or?
Yeah, I mean, Face Off was really, that was almost cubist in the research, and or a Valley Girl would say tripendicular. I mean, it was like, I would get the dailies of John's work, and I'd have to get his vocal rhythms, and he was getting the dailies of my work, and then we had to like switch back and put each other's faces on and try to be not him with his face or not me with without his face. I mean, it was a mind meld. Adaptation was probably the most acrobatic challenge I've ever had to do as a film actor, and because I was playing Charlie, and then I was playing Donald, and I'd have an earpiece in my ear, and here what I did is, first Spike would say, well, how are you feeling this morning? Are you more, did you get out of bed on the right side or the left side? And are you cranky? Are you jolly? Because Donald was jolly and Charlie was cranky. And I was like, I think maybe we'll start with Charlie today. And then I would do everything as Charlie, and then they'd put an earwig in my ear. And then I'd be playing Donald, and I'd have to act off of a tennis ball on a mic stand and listen to what I had done as Charlie, and then react to that tennis ball as Donald. So that got really exhausting. It was like, I remember some days I was just like, ah! But yes, to answer your question, I do like a challenge. I see someone all the way in the back.
You see better than that. Yeah, I see that first too. You go ahead.
Hi. I'm sorry?
What do you think of the memes?
Oh, the meme? Well, to be perfectly honest with you, I try not to think about it, but how could I not but think about it? Because there was a few memes today, they were right there in my face. But I think it's now. It's au courant. It's modern times, and I'm joining the club.
Follow-up question to that. Do any of them you look at and you go, oh, that's pretty funny. I should forward that in an email to like my uncle or something.
No, I do not. I don't forward memes. I don't record memes. I really don't look at memes. But here we are. Well, I see my face on your shirt right there.
Some of my favorite movies that you've done are Matchstick Men
and
Leaving Las Vegas. Because your performances are so convincing, and I have to know, like, how do you study for something like that, for being an alcoholic or having a mental illness and that? Like, do you pull that from real life?
Well, sometimes you do get a little method and you live the part. In terms of Leaving Las Vegas, I'm glad it was only a 4-week shoot, because I did have a drinking coach on that movie. His name was Tony Digman. He's a poet. He was a drunk. He came out of San Francisco. He works with my uncle, and I had him on the set, and I was studying him and watching him as he was drinking. And then sometimes he would like say, well, for this scene, I think we can administer you like maybe 1 shot of bourbon. And some scenes most of the scenes I was completely dry, but there were some scenes where I thought, you know what, I want to take this to another level of reality. And I was just blotto, and that was the scene in the casino when I threw the table and said, I'm his father, I'm his father. I was completely out of it, and I remember crawling with Tony on all fours back to the hotel room and not even being able to make it in the hotel room because we were passed out in the hotel room hallway. And I woke up in the morning and I had a report for duty, and they were pretty nervous, but I'm very proud of that scene. But yeah, sometimes you get method, sometimes you just, you record. You do research, you look at other people who have conditions, you take interviews with people, and again, sometimes you just give yourself over to the imagination and just will yourself to believe you're in that condition.
Yeah.
Question about Deadfall. That's one of my favorite performances of yours.
Thank
I
you.
was wondering, what made you want to bring that character back for the movie Arsenal just came out?
Well, I felt that there was more to be said with Eddie, and I think I'm going to bring him back again from time to time. I'm almost feeling a little like Andy Kaufman, Tony Clifton thing with that character, and I just like the look of the character. I like the false nose, the $20 wig, the really bad wig, the crummy mustache, and the attitude of the character. It's kind of a bit of an alter ego for me.
Speaking of Deadfall, do you have any performances in your life that you're really frustrated because you think that they're really, really good, or you put a lot into it, and then you just think people completely have misunderstood them?
I think a lot of the work today went in that direction. I think that Lord of War was misunderstood when it came out, and I think that Army of One certainly misunderstood, and I think even to some extent Dog Eat Dog, the recent one with Schrader. And I thank you again for keeping these movies alive and giving them chances, hopefully for more years to come.
Yeah, somebody else have a question? Right here on the end.
Me?
Yeah.
Could you give us either your like best audition story or a Sean Connery? If you have a Sean Connery story.
I think the audition story is the better story.
Go for it.
I was studying Wing Chun Kung Fu, and did a little of that in Bangkok Dangerous. I was about 13, and I had befriended a guy who was making movies. He was kind of like the more cerebral version of the Joe character, and he was an editor. And he said that he had to go to an audition for The Dating Game. Do you remember that show, The Dating Game? This might make you want to get another Caged.
Oh, yeah, no. Very easy.
I went to the audition. I said, you know what? His name was Julian. I said, Julian, his name is Julian Similian. You can look him up. They'll have it somewhere. I want to do this audition. And I sat down on the panel. I was 13, 14, or I don't remember. I was very young. And I started going totally off the wall and answering all the questions. And they said, well, what's your name? I said, well, my name's Nikki, and you're Nikki Coppola. Yeah, Nikki Coppola. Well, we want you to go on The Dating Game. And I got the gig, and that audition tape has to be somewhere. And then my dad said, no, you're not going on The Dating Game. You're way too young. What do you mean you're going on The Dating Game? You're not even old enough to go on a date. But that is out there somewhere.
Are there any roles that you auditioned for that you were like, I would be perfect for this, and then you've seen it get away? Like, what's the one that got away for you?
Roles that I auditioned for that didn't happen. There was one role, and it was a million years ago, and it was in a Jerry Bruckheimer produced movie. Douglas Day Stewart was directing, and it was a movie called, I think it was called Thief of Hearts. And I was auditioning against Stephen Bauer, we call him Rocky in Hollywood. And I thought I gave a good audition. Again, I was still a bit young at the time to play that part, but it was a very romantic part, and Stephen got it. But I thought that I could have really done something with that.
Yeah, somebody else have a question? Gotta go middle here in the back.
Nick?
Yeah.
So you've done a lot of different types of movies, like different genres, like you'll jump from Leaving Las Vegas to something like The Rock. Do you actively like seek out different projects, or do you just kind of take what comes your way?
I was always looking to, when it was time to zig, I wanted to zag, and when it was time to zag, I wanted to zig. And I had done Leaving Las Vegas and The Rock within the same year, and I like that polarity. I like that dichotomy. That's falls into the category of challenge and keeping things fresh and doing what you're told you can't do. One of the keys to survival, I think, in Hollywood is to never get typecast or pigeonholed. Although the danger with that is that if you don't give them some level of certainty, then you can scare an audience away. And some actors, I do think, fall into the trap of safety where they don't want to take those chances. But for me, it was always what kept me interested. I would not want to keep playing the same genre or the same type of character over and over again. I have to find ways of staying interested in the material.
Well, yeah, so you're talking about material that you work for, and you're constantly looking for more interesting stuff. I know that you have a lot of movies that are in post-production or soon to coming out. You worked with Neville Dean Taylor again. Is that right?
I worked with Brian Taylor.
Yeah.
Mark wasn't there on that one, but Brian and I worked on something which I'm very excited about. I haven't seen it yet. It's called Mom and Dad. And if you can picture this, it's all parents in a 24-hour period inexplicably turn violent against their children. Yeah. Now, try to find the humor in that.
I like how you read that script. You're like, that's not too violent. That's fine. Fuck kids up.
I do think that one will be funny in a very strange way, but yeah, I do think there will be some humor there.
Well, and then also to play against you tell you can't do something, and then you have to do it. We host a genre festival every September called the Fantastic Fest. You're 100% not allowed to come, and I would recommend that you don't do it under any circumstance.
Okay.
And so if you ever want to bring a movie, can't come.
Okay.
You'll never be able to achieve it, which means you have to come.
Okay.
Yeah, somebody else have a question? Yeah, here. Well, no, we've already asked you. Let's spread it around a bit, I'm sorry. Here. Yeah.
Have you ever gone too dark? Has a role ever like haunted you afterwards?
Well, yeah, I think leaving Las Vegas did haunt me a little bit, and that's why I was glad it ended after 4 weeks. That one lingered a little bit. I'm sure there's another one, but it's not coming to mind right now. It must be that scotch.
Yeah, somebody else. Get a pie. Yeah, back in the far right.
Are there any roles that you regret taking, and then are there any roles that you passed on that you regret not taking?
There are always, I'm not going to say regrets, because I have learned from every mistake, and I do mean that. But there are movies that I've made that certainly have not worked, but I can't dwell on that. I have to move forward, otherwise I won't be able to keep working. It'll affect my confidence. But there's roles that I've passed on that I probably should have done or might have done, but scheduling didn't work. I mean, I didn't have the time. I was, raising a young son, and I couldn't go to New Zealand for 3 years or Australia for a year. But I don't really want to mention those names, what movies those were. Because,
Lord of the Rings, though, right?
Yeah. Well,
and I got 2 years. I figured out what movie shoots for 3 years.
Right. And your man Elijah,
Yeah.
he lives here, right?
Yeah, he's got a house not far.
That's fantastic.
He got us that note last year. So I feel like it all happened because Elijah was just like, hey, this dude's not a psycho. So whenever I talked to your manager, he was like, wait, are you not the psycho guy? Who is the person that we left off because that other person interrupted? That was in the far back.
First I want to say thank you for City of Angels, because I thought at a time of loss and the joy in life that you brought was just so healing for me. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you.
But when you make a movie like that, or 160 Seconds, or Bangkok Dangerous, that is related to or was another movie, do you watch the other movie before you make?
Yes.
Wings of Desire before you do City of Angels?
Certainly, yeah, I do. I know a lot of actors would choose not to because they don't want it to influence them or inform their work or be intimidated by, in these cases, classic films. But I look at it because I'm looking for what can I do that might be different with the character.
Yeah, somebody else have one? Right, I see a big hand. Yeah.
Hey, there's Cameron Poe right there.
Oh, wow. I won't believe it until you're upside down doing push-ups, buddy.
Yeah, well, so obviously everyone in this room loves your work. There's some
Thank you.
people out there that maybe don't get it.
Right.
Do you have anything to say to the haters out there?
You just don't know what you're missing.
Yeah, straight in the back there. Yeah, you got your hand still up. There's nobody else to you with a hand up. You're waving it. Yeah, it's you. It's 100% you.
Okay, can I ask a hate question that's about the other part of this, which is food and drink?
Okay.
I just feel like I should shake it up since we have a lot of film. What is the worst meal anyone could ever put in front of you?
A weird question.
I know.
Yeah.
There's this British show that puts hell and heaven dishes in front of people.
I like you brought a lot of your personal shit to this today. and then you were like, you know what I should do in a room full of 200 people? Oh, that Nicolas Cage. Yeah, what's the worst thing I could put in front of you?
Worst meal. I'm kind of like an Epicurean. I like to explore tastes. I want to have an educated palate. I might try to, get past whatever initial dislike I have. I can't, nothing's coming to my mind right now. I'm so sorry. I can't think of the worst meal right now. I just honestly can't think of it.
I think it's okay that you don't have an actual answer. He loves all foods. Yeah, somebody else have a question? Yeah, here we go.
Would you like a slice of birthday cake with crickets on it?
It was really good.
Yeah, honestly, I put crickets on that because when they said Nicolas Cage was coming, I didn't know what you eat.
Sure, I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll definitely try that.
Man, if the lady at HEB knew that Nicolas Cage was going to eat that cake. I was like, no H in it. She's like, are you sure? I was like, pretty sure. Yeah, here on the end.
Are you happy with Sonny, and are you interested in directing again?
I'm thrilled with Sonny. I think I got some of the best performances out of those actors. James Franco was beautiful in that movie. Mina Sabari was fantastic. Brenda Blethyn, Harry Dean Stanton. It was Brenda Vaccaro. I really enjoyed that experience, and I am looking forward to hopefully directing again someday very soon.
Yeah, question way in the back corner.
Yeah, so adaptation is one of the best films in the world. Do you hope to work with Charlie Kaufman again in the future?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, there's a couple things we were talking about. Hopefully they'll happen. We'll see. But yeah, he's truly a genius, and I remember asking him, can you give me some advice if I want to write a script? And he said, well, what is it that you're worried about? And I said, well, I want to make sure it has a beginning and a middle and an end. And he said, well, just if you start writing and stop writing, it's going to have a beginning and a middle and an end. So, you know what? You're right. Okay.
Do you ever have sit-down conversations with Charlie Kaufman where he's like, is that really how you see me?
I mean, when I was interviewing him and I burned all the tapes, I promised him I would. I mean, literally, I burned them. And I put lighter fluid on them.
I have zero doubts about that being true.
He was nervous that whatever we were talking about would get out, or I just burned them. But yeah, we had in-depth conversations, and I would ask him questions and see, well, what are you like when you get angry? And I would study him, and he would just, you want me to demonstrate? Yeah, I want you to demonstrate. And he would start, yelling and getting angry. So that's fantastic. I'm going to definitely use that in the movie. And so yeah, those were in depth and very informative, and they certainly helped the performance.
Yeah, somebody else have one? Here.
So I'm pregnant with my second child.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And one of the number one questions we ask at all of our baby showers are, what is your parenting advice? What's your number one thing that you can say to parents?
Well, to be gentle, to listen, and to let them know that to follow their dreams as long as it doesn't hurt themselves or other people, and patience.
And at what age should she start showing Nicolas Cage movies to her kids?
Oh, I would follow the rating system.
I'm pretty sure everybody in this room saw RoboCop when they were like 7, so that's out the window. You got to show those things to kids early so they know what awesome is. Yeah, somebody else. Let's see. Yep. In the middle-ish part, I'm pointing at you. Yep, it's waving now.
Me right here?
Yep.
Oh, okay, cool. I know in showbiz, like you mentioned scheduling earlier, a lot of times there's projects you can't do simply because contracts fall through or things like that. But I imagine Superman would have been one of those toughest pills to swallow since it's so iconic, and you wore the suit and you looked in the mirror in the suit, and it's more than just the character or just the material. So I was wondering if you still look back on that with maybe not regrets, but fond memories, or wish you could have done it, or if you see that as just another one of those Hollywood things that didn't work out.
I think that Tim and I were onto something. I mean, I saw the drawings. I saw what he was going to bring to the world, and I knew where I was going to go, and I think that it would have been special. But again, I have no regrets, and that's one of those hot topics that if I say anything about it, it's going to go all over the internet, and there'll be another meme, and I'm trying to get away from it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we only have time for one more question. I guess you're waving a paddle at me.
Yes, absolutely. The newly engaged. Is that you? No,
Oh,
that's
wait.
not you. That's you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There you are. Can't
You've
see
already
so
asked a
well.
question, haven't you?
Okay.
Oh.
Hi.
We'll squeeze both of these in because the newlyweds that'll be your wedding present. I did it.
Okay.
At the first Cage, he showed Firebirds, and I forgot until he showed the trailer that it was directed by David Green.
Right.
And today you showed Joe, which was directed by David Gordon Green.
Correct.
Can you compare and contrast working with those two directors?
Excellent last question.
Well, let me just say that David added the Gordon to his name to separate himself from the other David without the Gordon in his name. So it's David Green and David Gordon Green, but entirely two different experiences. And Firebirds is just so long ago, I don't really have that much of a memory on that one.
I highly recommend you rewatch it and particularly focus on the scene where Tommy Lee Jones eats a fudgesicle.
What did you do?
There's like a scene where Tommy Lee Jones is figuring out what he needs to do with you, and his wife is like, she's like, "Are you all stressed out?" And he's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Do you want to talk about it?" And then Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Can I get my ice cream?" And then he's like queues up in a bar lounger, and he's just rubbing a fudgesicle around on his lips while he's like talking about his emotions.
He's just one of the best.
Yeah, did you guys have that one final one? You do hands up to the newlyweds? Or
Any
newly
questions?
engaged?
Yeah, let's do that, okay?
All right.
All right.
You want to do it right now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, well, yeah, we're just going to close this out. Let's take a photo.
I like this shirt, Caged Virgin.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations, you guys. You're always going to remember that time that you got engaged when Nicolas Cage was there.
Can I take one moment? So let's pretend to be married. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Nicolas Cage, you're a man, you're a myth, you're a legend, and now I can say that you have officially been to Cage, and I can't thank you and tell you how deeply, deeply honored I am that you decided to come to Austin, Texas and hang out with us for an entire fucking day.
I really appreciate that.
You're the best. Thank you. Cool. Thank you. Have a great night. You guys have a great night.